if we all started a new job and one of us goes somewhere else, but we're all really close, you're going to be like the one to pull me there before, the VP of the company does, because me and you already have that relationship.
So hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Connect Over Coffee. For today's episode, I have a very pleasure of having a co-host today with Jen, who is the other half, the co-founder of the Connect. Jen, thanks for joining me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me. Happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, of course. So do you want to do the honors in introducing who we're chatting with today?
Yeah, sure. We have with us today our guest, Katrina Clayton. She is currently the player engagement manager of Think 450. So I guess we're just gonna kind of jump right into it. Before we fully kick it off, first question we ask everybody: do you like coffee or tea?
I actually like both.
Okay.
I am not a everyday coffee person, but I do love my tea. So
okay,
there we go. Sorry, I just had to ask another follow-up question. That it's coffee for the energy, tea for the mellowing out.
Coffee, yeah. Coffee's like my morning, maybe afternoon fix. The tea is just like, my family's British, so I feel like we just always drink tea like all the time. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew. As long as I've known you, I didn't know your family had roots. Yeah, and you're British there.
We are some British.
That's what these chats are for. Time to learn.
Exactly. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to do our 2-minute drill. Jen and I are just going to pepper you with a few questions there. We're just going to go back and forth here. Really just kind of get to know you a little bit better and then get us both in that question and answering mode here. So you ready? All right. First question. Favorite sports team?
It's so hard. I don't really have one. It's kind of weird. But my favorite sports are basketball and football, soccer.
Cool. So even though you don't have a favorite sport, favorite athlete?
That's hard too. I like a couple of athletes. I'm a pretty big Kevin Durant fan.
All right. Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. Favorite sports movie?
This is not really like sports, but like loving basketball. Kind of.
Yeah.
It brings two of my favorite things together, which is romantic comedies. It's not really a comedy, but romantic comedies and sports. So I would just go with loving basketball.
I mean, looking back on it now, there are definitely some laughable moments in the in loving basketball.
The game is like a funny one or like interesting when you watch it now, but that's another one that's a good movie.
Great choices. Beyonce or Rihanna?
Yeah.
Okay. Hands down. Nope. There we go.
Drake or Kanye?
Drake.
And what song gets you hyped up right before an important meeting or event? Anything off Certified Lover Boy?
Yeah, on there actually. That's a good question. I do like Young Thug, which is kind of random, but like some of his songs I'll play.
There you go.
Okay. And then finally, what city has the best food scene out of these three options? Philly, DC, or New York?
New York.
Ooh. Oh man.
I feel like New York has everything. Philly's good for their things. DC's good for kind of like everything, but New York's like the bigger version of DC. So
yeah, I feel like it kind of like trickles down. Like you said, New York's got everything. Philly's got their niche stuff, cheesesteaks, pretzels, and then DC's kind of dabbles in a little bit of everything, but New York's just got it all.
Yeah. So Jen, are you saying New York's your favorite food spot too?
No, I'm saying Philadelphia. I just see where she's coming from.
I'm gonna go on Philly too. I think that's that hometown love right there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So let's hop into it. That was definitely a fun part of the conversation. But you're a player engagement manager for Think 450. Can you explain to us like what your role entails and what Think 450 is for those of us who don't know?
Yeah, sure. So the way to kind of easily describe it is the NBPA is the union for all NBA players, and Think 450 is the marketing arm within. That makes sense. So when you think of the union, you think of the CBA, you think of contracts, you think of fines, things like that. You think of a support system for the players off the court. But on the marketing side, we also protect, support, and help amplify their voices as well. But we do that through events and engagement, and there's development and brand partnerships and all these things. So it's kind of like just additional creative support, and just more of like the fun side to you think of a union, because like even just think about me, you, and Jen, like if we were in a union for our jobs, like what does that seem fun? Like I don't know, like does that seem like something you want to like engage with? Like not really, right? Or you'd be like, okay, I have a union, I don't really know what it's about, but I'm in a union and they're helping me make sure I get paid what I need to get paid and my rights are, being taken seriously. But is it fun? Like, do I want to hang out with them? And so our job at Think 450 is to kind of like create the opportunities to engage and like educate them on the union, but also like create these opportunities where they can essentially enjoy what we have here, which is the union. So.
All right. So going back into probably your earlier part of your career, you started out in ticket sales, then you went to community engagement. Now you're on the player engagement side. Kind of walk us through that career journey that you went on and how you switched from sales to working on the team and working with the players and what that journey looked like for you.
Yeah. So the ticket sales opportunity was like my first ever job in sports. Mm-hmm. It was a way for me to just like jump in. It was kind of like, why not? Let me just see what this is about, learn the business. I learned just like basic skills, communication, talking on the phone, like just, thinking quick on your feet, client management, learned all those things. And I was with a team where it was a very much beginner of like the process. If you're a Sixers fan, and so it was cool to it was difficult because I was selling tickets for a bad team, quote unquote, but it was cool to be a part of like the growing process of the team. And so I was good at what I was doing at sales, and I found a way to like create sales and keep my name on the board. But I always was a lot more curious about the players. What else could I be doing to help people? So not just like helping the arena be filled with fans and not just like, getting to my goal number every month, but like, how can I make a difference? How can I help somebody? Who's helping the players? I just always thought that. And so initially thought that I could make a difference in marketing and wanted to kind of go into that side of the company just because I'm more like a creative person anyway. And the opportunity didn't come with the Sixers, but I ended up going to grad school in DC at Georgetown. And that's where I was able to dabble in more marketing with like Octagon and a couple other agencies where I was able to help with like talent, hospitality and event management and things like that, eventually leading me to community relations with the Wizards. And so I never really knew what community relations was. I just, when I learned about it, I was told that I work with the players, but I'm also able to impact the community. And I'm like, that's a great, chance for me to do two things that I really want to do. And that was a great way for me to learn a new city, learn the players on that specific team at that time for the Wizards, and also just like kind of combine their interest in helping the community with like things that I wanted to do and I was passionate about, which is like giving back. So that was a great chance to meet basketball operations staff, like get my face in front of people and have them see like what I can do but also some of those like sales skills came in there. I'm knowing like how to make conversation and like how to call leads, and like I'm calling all these organizations that we can like partner with on different things for the community and for Wizards community programs. So kind of came full circle. In between there, I did some marketing, as you guys know, with some WNBA, AFL. Like, so I think I started in ticket sales, but a lot of skills from there trickled down into like what I did in marketing, what I did in community relations, and what I'm doing now, essentially. But it seems like there's been like a common theme with everything that I've done, even though they all sound like different jobs, but they all like have some type of connection with like having an impact, helping people do more, and a lot of like behind the scenes kind of work and like off the court kind of work. And I think I like working in sports, but I do like the behind the scenes, off the court work. And that's kind of where I feel like I make most of the difference. So.
That's awesome right there. Yeah, all three of us actually started out in sales. It's pretty awesome to see the base of our job performances started in sales, and we've always taken lessons. We learned how to call people. That's what I learned, how to call people, because before I wasn't picking up the phone to call anybody, and now we're calling people, making sales, making money, and doing our things. That's pretty awesome.
So it sounds like you kind of clearly you still have so much more room like to grow and to just like keep climbing the ladder in whatever you want to do. But it kind of sounds like you had a goal to get into the player side of things. But along the journey you just described to us, did you ever have like a what if moment or a fork in the road where you're like, well, I could do this or I could do this, and like, what was it? And what could it have been?
Yeah, so when I finished my community relations internship with the Wizards, I didn't get offered a job right away. So I started working for a nonprofit. And so I thought, okay, I like community relations, maybe like, maybe I'm really just a philanthropy kind of person. Like maybe I need to be in like fundraising or cause kind of doing similar work without the sports piece of it. And so it could have just been the nonprofit that I worked for, or I was just coming off this high of like doing like a combination of everything I liked and then going and doing just like something nonprofit based, but I did not like it at all. And I was just like, I need to get back into sports. Like I need to find a way to get back to what I was doing full time. And that was like my only quote unquote fork, but I honestly never really had a plan B. I really was just like, I'm going to get back and I'm going to figure it out and it's going to work out. I think I worked at that job for maybe like 6 months, maybe if that, yeah, about 6 months until I went back to the organization and was able to do marketing on the WNBA side, which is where I met Jen. But I think that like that was my only real fork, because before then I was really just trying to get into the industry. So like ticket sales was like okay, do I do this? Do I move to Philly 3 months after I graduated undergrad? Don't know anybody. I knew like 1-2 people maybe. And I was like, why not? Let me just do this. So before that, it was just kind of like jumping in. And then when I got the taste of like moving to DC, getting the internship experience, I was a 25-year-old intern. I'm like, I am not playing around. I need to get a full-time job here. Like, I need to come back. How do I stay within this network? And I had other interviews, but I did like the organization. I'm like, okay, I want to stay. And so I got back in the organization, just not what I was doing directly. And it took maybe 2 years for me to get back to community relations with the Wizards. But even still within that time, building my network, like eyes on the prize, trying to figure out how to get back to the player side. And then even at that point, how do I go further and get on the player development side, because that was something that I always did have in the back of my mind, but I just thought was like non-existent. When I realized there was an opportunity was when I was just like, how do I get there? So it was like, I was again trying to like get to this thing that I'm like, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? And once we got a G League team, there was some some crossover, and I was able to kind of do both of those things at the same time, which was crazy and busy, but it allowed me to like learn a little bit about a lot of things. And so obviously leading me to then doing that for solely doing player engagement for Monumental. But even at that point, it just seemed kind of like, I don't know, it just seemed kind of like, I don't know if I'm really, I don't know if you guys can relate, but like you've been trying to like rush after a goal, and then when you get there, just like, okay, like, is this it? Like, am I like, do I still need to like keep going? Like, so I always felt like that. And so fast forward to now, this is a job that, or an organization I always said I wanted to work for. And so, I mean, it's about to be a year that I've been in this organization, which is wild to even think about. And so I'm just like, even now, it's just like, is this like, you know what I mean? It's like, did I get here? Mm-hmm. I'm here, okay. But then you always have that thing where you're like, what else I want to do? What else I want to do? So I don't know if that answered the question, but I had like one fork, and I think I'm just a person, I'm always like looking for the next thing, or like what other thing can I accomplish? Not necessarily like a new job, but just like within that role or within that like area, like what else can I accomplish? And so with last year being COVID, I feel like there's a lot of things I didn't get to do within this new job. So I am looking forward to like going into next year, I'm at this job doing some of those things and like experiencing some of those things too. So.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and having that, it's like a yes and is kind of how I always describe it. It's like, yes, I accomplished all this stuff, and now I'm going to go ahead and move forward and do this new thing, or if it's a new job or a new, like you said, a new thing within the role that you're currently in. So I always call it like the yes and effect. You know, you always want to keep thriving and moving on there. But on the topic of networking, let's transition into that a little bit there. We always hear about it, especially in our industry. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So chat with us about the best ways you can kind of build your network if you're just starting out and you're young in your career, or if you're looking to get into the sports industry.
I think a lot of informational interviews, that's like my bread and butter, even to this day now. I think that's just the best. I don't know if that's what people call them now, but I think that's just the best way to like get to know people. Before COVID, and even now that people are doing networking events again, obviously like getting out there, meeting people in like-minded settings and just like staying in contact. The information interviews, you know, there's some back and forth there, emailing somebody, hoping they respond, setting up time, there's etiquette there that needs to happen. So I think that's a big piece. And once you get on the phone, like nurturing the relationship, you know, being respectful, nurturing relationship, following up, and just creating some type of relationship. And at least hoping that if something comes up and you've explained your interest, that they keep you in mind. So there's that whole cycle. And then networking across, I think, is big too. Like keeping in touch with like your peers and like where people land, because your peers are like closer to your level. So they're going to be not like more inclined, but like it's just an easier ask, I feel like, to ask, like if we all started a new job and one of us goes somewhere else, but we're all really close, you're going to be like the one to pull me there before, you know, the VP of the company does, because me and you already have that relationship. So I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. I think it's getting talked about a lot more, but I think when you're like in it and you're freaking out because you don't know what you're going to do when you need a job and you try to find or internship, you kind of forget, like, let me figure out what my peers are doing. Let me go to these network events. Let me network with people who like also are wanting to work in sports and also like want to move up. And it's not a competition, but like if they get the job before me, they can help me quicker than someone that I don't know that I have to build this relationship with. So those are some 3 things I think people should if you're at that starting point of like ground zero, things to think about, and figure out ways to kind of build those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on this, especially in your position. You went from the Sixers down to Monumental. I'm sure you met people in grad school at Georgetown because everybody's all over the place. Now you're back up in New York. So like, how do you go about maintaining the relationships you build when you move around from job to job? Because clearly, like we briefly mentioned, we all met at Monumental. Now we're all doing something else. So like, how do you keep in touch and make sure you keep the bond strong for if somebody is like, oh yeah, I got a new position open, Katrina's the first one to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think like when I was in college, this sounds so ancient, but like I feel like LinkedIn was super new. And so it was just kind of like a lot of writing people all the time. And like I always tried to not tread the line between like being persistent and being annoying. Mm-hmm. But I would try to like stay relevant. So like keep up with news and like, you know, if they work for the Heat and the Heat won, like, you know, congratulations. And I try to stay current on things and not be like a bother, but you know, sometimes not ask for anything, just reaching out, just say hello, holidays, always reasons to reach out on a holiday. And like I said, things like, you know, key moments in the season, like All-Star and, you know, if they win something or a game. But I also think it's just like being genuine. If you have their number and you think, you know, they cross your mind, I don't know, send a message, they respond. I mean, I took this a little harsher when I was in college, but I think now, like if someone doesn't respond, okay, like you try your best, you did everything you can do, like you're trying to like nurture a relationship and not that they don't want to, but you know, they maybe don't have the capacity, whatever. It's not personal, but at least you tried. And maybe next time you reach out or in a different setting, you know, maybe they'll respond. So I just try to like remain genuine, be respectful of people's time, like especially when asking for meetings and stuff like that. Or if you're in the same city, you know, if they want to grab coffee or something, and just try to make it not like a like dire need thing all the time, but just kind of like a super chill, you know, catching up, how are you, you know, kind of like what's new vibe, and not just like I need your help with this, or like I applied for this job. And I think a lot of people, even like, and I'm sure you guys can agree, like even on LinkedIn, I'll check my LinkedIn and a lot of people are like, hey, I applied for this job. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always try to help anyway, but I would say like most people are not going to help you if they don't know you at all and you've never tried to like make a relationship with them, you know? Or at least they can try, but they can't really vouch for you. So I just try to remain genuine, just so that if something does come up and you did apply for a job, that's not like the only time you've ever tried to like, you know, connect with them genuinely. Because I feel like people can also tell when you're like not being genuine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like pretty much everything you said, like being aware, everybody's getting pulled in so many directions. So if they don't answer, it's not you, it could be them. And being genuine, I feel like is so key, because sometimes I reach out and there's times where like I struggle with it. I'm like, shoot, I'm asking for something again. But I'm like, I talk to them on the reg kind of. So it's like, you know, it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, just not constantly asking for things, but always being able to provide stuff as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. So
that's what editing's for, right? You can edit that part out.
I'm real into networking, just thinking about it, how we just actually had a lunch and learn. Sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent. We had a lunch and learn that was about networking. And like you can network wherever. And I know we've had a discussion about this before. It can be at a basketball game, it can be at a mall, it can be at a bar. Like you never know who you're going to meet. But the question the guy asked, who likes networking? A few people said yes. He was like, who is terrified of networking? 35 hands went up in the air like that. It was crazy. Mine was one of them. But it like as long, if you start to think about it in a different light, you're just trying to make friends, and then it's going to become a professional friendship or relationship, you know? Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Sorry for the tangent. Because we want to get
Usually I'm the one that goes on tangents, Jen.
I know,
switch
right?
roles.
There you go. But go ahead.
People network with the intention, like people are only using the term networking because they're trying to get something out of it.
Yeah.
That's why you're terrified, because you don't really want to put the time into like nurture the relationship, or you don't know how to, or maybe you don't know how to make friends, or you just like think that you're supposed to know this person so you can email them about a job, and really about, like you said, nurturing them, like reaching out now, continuing the friendship or the relationship, so that if something comes up one day, maybe they need you, maybe you need them, but like I think it's always just a thought of like, what can they do for me? And oh my God, they might not help me, versus like, what can I learn from this person, or like learn more about them.
Yeah, got to change that mindset for sure. But we also want to chat before we run out of time here about something else that you have going on, Project Power Forward, and kind of how you came to create the platform and giving tips and advice to how to power your sports career.
Yeah, so I think that I really just wanted to like do something that brought together women in sports, and I started doing events like a while ago, like in 2015, and I didn't really see a lot of events like that. I saw a lot of like women in business, women in entrepreneurship. I think now there's a lot more of it, and I just love to like see, like I see so many organizations now, and like I just love how much women in sports is like a thing. It's always been a thing, but like it's just more like I don't know, like just like a more on brand thing, if that makes sense. And so I did some events with the premise of like getting people to network and like to learn more about other women in sports. But I found that I didn't feel like people were actually like walking away with something. Like they might have had a good time, might have met people that maybe they still even follow to this day. But I'm like, did I help them with anything, or like, did they learn anything? Like maybe they heard some advice that was good, but like, is this helping them? And events are hard when you're doing it by yourself and you're funding it by yourself, and you are the one person show, and I was a one person show. So I decided to kind of switch gears a little bit and turn it into just something that was pumping out resources, quick information. I love to follow pages like that on Instagram, and like I thought maybe there's a way I can give out information that's quick, digestible, but something that you can save and like use for next time. And so that's the premise with Project Power Forward. I hope to build it out even further, but I think for now, like just being a digital space that essentially will become like a community. But for now, just a space where you can go, oh, have an interview. Let me go to that post about interviews, or like, oh, there was like our partnership on mentorship. Oh, they posted something really cool. Let me see what they said, because I want to network, but I want to know like how I should ask maybe my mentor. So that's kind of the premise with it. And I just hope to like help people navigate as they try to figure out either getting into the industry or moving up. And then hopefully one day be able to like do a lot more with it.
No, that's great. That's awesome. And then speaking on the topic of advice and wanting to help out, one of our favorite questions that we always like to ask is the shit you wish you knew. So basically that is, which advice would you give your younger self, or even someone that's younger trying to get into the industry in some way? What advice would you give them starting out? Like, oh shit, I wish I would have knew that back when I was in high school or college or starting out.
Or now, right? I would say, I always talk about, maybe because I worked at the Sixers at this time, I don't know, but trust in the process. I think that's like a huge part of this whole, I think it's a part of life, first of all. But I think like it sucks in the moment when you're not where you want to be, and someone's like, everything happens for a reason, trust the process. But I really truly believe it, because sometimes like we want this job so bad and we don't get it. But then when you see why you didn't get it down the road, it just makes so much sense. You're just like, this makes sense. I get it. I was supposed to be where I am now. And so it sounds so cliche, but I feel like trust in the process is a big part of it, because as you change, you know, job rejection or someone who never responds to your email, or, you know, maybe you have to move to a city to do the job you don't really want to move to, you know, like it's all a part of your story. It's all a part of your process, and everyone's story is going to be different. So that's just something that's kind of like a mindset thing, and something I try to tell myself, like, trust the process. Everyone's process is different. So that's number one. I think the second thing, I don't know if you guys told me there was numbers or how many things, but the second thing is staying true to yourself, because I think that you want to work in this industry so bad. There are some people that would like potentially, I don't even know, like do something they wouldn't necessarily do. And I don't know what that is, but you know, don't lose sight of your morals, your values, just to get this job that looks so cool on Instagram. Like, stay true to like you and what you believe. I don't know what that means for each person, but I just think that's something to think about. And then what else do I wish I knew before? Those are two things. I feel like I had another one. I can't think about it, but those are two really good ones that I wish that I just remembered more often when I was like trying to make my way into the industry.
No, that is great. I literally just wrote down trusting the process, because that's probably the biggest thing I wish I would have known. And even till this day, trusting the process. So, you know, just thinking about my career and my personal life right now, trusting the process, and everything's going to work out for a reason. So I just wrote that down, the mindset, the mantra I'm going to be using from now on. So thank you, Katrina, for that. And you know, that's it. That was our last question. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate you hopping on, giving great advice. Like I just said, trusting the process. That's the mantra moving forward for me. So yeah, any closing words, Jen?
If you want more of this content, check out our pages, subscribe, like, all the things you got to do to follow us, and have a good night. There we go.